Good morning. Good morning, world. If you're watching on Twitch TV, hello. Welcome to the Privateer Press Keynote Speech Panel Address Mind-Blowing Experience. I am Andrew Hartland, aka Hacksaw76. I'm going to just say a few words. Thank you all for coming here. TempleCon 2013, this is our 8th year. As you can see by the room here, we've probably got close to 500 people in here on a Friday, which is insane. So without further ado, I will hand this over to marketing guru extraordinaire Lyle Lowry from Privateer Press.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? You guys ready for the 2013 keynote presentation? First, I want to thank TempleCon for having us, and we're here again with another presentation. This is the first year we're live streaming it, so get ready for a big show. I got Ed and Will here, and they're going to tell you about what we've got new coming out for 2013, so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
Level 7 Omega Protocol picks up right where Level 7 Escape left off. The Subterra Bravo facility has been thrown into chaos through the actions of the players in Escape, and now the government has sent in a top-secret, highly trained Special Forces unit to shut down the facility and eliminate everything remaining in the base.
In Escape, you are a terrified person running for your life who doesn't want to get anywhere near any bad guys. In Omega Protocol, we've presented the players with heroes they can play, whose job it is to go and kill aliens.
In Omega Protocol, one player takes on the role of the Overseer, while 2 to 5 other players take on the role of the Elite Special Ops team. The Overseer's role in the game is to control all of the alien denizens and challenges that the players face throughout the game. The players are trying to achieve specific scenario-based objectives by exploring a map that's pre-laid out at the start and fighting off the hordes of aliens that the Overseer sends their way.
There's a lot of secret choices that get made on the alien side, so the missions are never the same even if you play the same mission multiple times.
The game is designed so that the Overseer player has a lot of control over which challenges are placed in the different rooms. So while a player can see the map layout from the very start of the game, he doesn't know what to expect in terms of what kind of threats or enemies are going to pop up in those rooms. Adrenaline is actually the currency that the soldiers use to perform actions. They generate adrenaline to do things like move, to attack, to perform special actions like activating an objective space. That generation also has a negative effect for them in that adrenaline transfers over to the Overseer player, which he then uses as currency to spawn aliens, to create new threats, and to basically threaten the soldiers' chances of success during the mission.
So the more actions the commandos take, the more resources the aliens have. So adrenaline is our shared resource system.
Since Omega Protocol is primarily combat focused, it was really important to the overall experience that miniatures be included. Each miniature represents an archetype that's found within the Special Ops team.
The team leader's abilities are focused on supporting the team. He can either reposition people when it's not their turn or allow them to shoot. The heavy weapons guy is the most direct at killing things, as you would expect, but he also has some controlling elements like napalm grenades that can block doorways. The recon specialist moves the fastest, is the stealthiest. Then the rifleman brings drones to the missions. Those drones are there to kill aliens or to interact with other things on the map. And then we've got our alien countermeasure specialist. And he has a suite of abilities and equipment that can basically interrupt what the alien psychic powers are doing. Each commando has skills and equipment that he can choose for each mission. So I can play the same mission multiple times and try different equipment loadouts to see if certain ones work better for certain missions.
Different characters give players the opportunity to construct teams with different strengths and weaknesses.
The thing I enjoyed the most about making the game is exploring the setting more. Level 7 Escape gave us a little taste of what was going on, but this game explores the aliens more, the government response team, and what's happening in the setting.
Omega Protocol is all about action. It is about going in as a commando, special ops, trained badass, and just blow the crap out of anything that stands against me.
It's no secret that Privateer Press organized play is the best. Whether you're a hobbyist, casual, competitive, it doesn't matter. We've got a format for you. In 2013, for our casual tier, players can expect to see an update for the Journeyman rules. It's going to give them even more options than before.
We're going to have book release events with the special one-day scenarios where people just come in and play. We're going to have Iron Arena. We're making that bigger and better with new prizes, new gameplay experiences.
And then our league this year, Machinations, is going to be awesome.
Unlike leagues previously, Machinations actually has an overall year storyline that players are going to be a part of, and they're going to be able to discover and uncover very special and hidden spoilers. Moving beyond the casual formats, this year's competitive scene is really exciting. We've got Steamroller 2013, which is by far the biggest and baddest Steamroller we've ever done.
It's even more streamlined than before. It's the best way for a player that wants to become competitive to go to their local store and begin playing in tournaments. When you're ready to step it up and show that you've got the intestinal fortitude, it's time for hardcore. It's crazy fast, one list, one caster, one kill, fully painted. Show you've got what it takes.
Finally, we have our Masters events. Masters are really meant for the guys who want to come in, compete at a higher level than, say, a Steamroller event, play against a broader spectrum of players, and prove their mastery of their own faction.
We have all these great formats for organized play in 2013, but you know what? We wanted more.
The Iron Gauntlet WARMACHINE and HORDES World Championship is really meant for the player who's ready to move beyond mastery of faction and prove his mastery of the game.
Iron Gauntlet is intended for the highest level of competitive player. People that want to prove they are the best in the world.
Like any true challenge, the road to the Iron Gauntlet isn't easy. Players are going to have to qualify if they want to get a top spot at the 2014 Lock and Load Iron Gauntlet WARMACHINE and HORDES World Championship.
The very first qualifier is going to be at Lock and Load 2013, with the first final being held at Lock and Load 2014. In between there, we're going to have several global qualifiers. If you place high enough, you're going to earn points that'll get you a spot in the finals in 2014, where you'll take your shot at earning the title Best in the World.
There are three defining features of the Iron Gauntlet. The first is fully painted armies. We want players to prove that they have mastery of the game, and that includes the hobby as well.
Specialists and character restrictions are going to be baseline. And finally, your lists do not have to be from the same faction. I'm going to say that one more time. The lists you bring don't have to be from the same faction. So if you think you can bring your best Crix and Khador, your best Signar or Retribution, your best Legion and Mercenaries, bring it. Bring your very best, because trust me, you're going to need it.
So you think you're good?
You think you're a pro?
You think you're the best in the world? Prove it. High Command is a combat deck building card game that takes the action of WARMACHINE and HORDES from the tabletop and puts it into a continent-wide conflict where players are in control of an entire faction.
The theme of High Command is big battles in the Iron Kingdom, so it's not a battle group with a warcaster versus a battle group with another warcaster. It's armies versus armies across the Iron Kingdoms.
The game of High Command is very similar in terms of the themes that are used in the game, the factions that you play, the warjacks, the war beasts. All of these things will feel to WARMACHINE and HORDES players the way that they do in the miniatures combat game.
When looking at how to take the feel of WARMACHINE and HORDES and transcribe them into a deck building card game, we had to come up with some very innovative mechanics in terms of how players interact with their decks.
The biggest way that the deck building aspects of High Command differ from ones that have come before is that players don't have a shared market. Each player has their own reserves that gives you your factions, units, warjacks, war beasts, and even your faction-based resources.
Using those different markets is how we got Cricks to feel like you're playing a Cricks army, and the Trollbloods to feel like you're playing a Trollbloods army. We were able to really fine-tune each faction's market so that it could feel like what players are used to in Warmachine and Hordes.
A game of High Command represents an entire season of warfare on Western Imran, during which players are trying to capture the most strategic locations as well as build their forces to accrue the most victory points to be declared the overall winner at the end of that season.
When you're building a deck for High Command, you start out with a choice from 5 Warcasters or Warlocks, so you pick 3 of them.
Each Warcaster has themes associated with them that allow you to take different detachments and different combinations of forces found throughout the faction. Some are more jack heavy or beast heavy, some have more units, and some have more magical support, allowing you to really feel the flavor of not only the faction itself, but the Warcasters that you've chosen to play with.
I think High Command is really going to appeal to a couple of different groups of gamers. First, you've got your guys that like to play deck building games, and High Command brings some unique faction elements to the deck building games. That exact same theme is what's going to draw in, I think, our Warmachine and Hordes players. The Warcasters feel like the Warcasters do in Warmachine, and I thought it just did a very accurate representation of Warmachine and Hordes.
I can now not only sit down and play as the High Commander for my favorite faction and fight over the greater strategic scope of warfare on Western Imran, I can also bring that experience to my friends who may or may not have any experience with Warmachine and Hordes.
Because of the different detachments and the different factions, you can play this deck building game over and over again and have it feel like a new experience each time.
What drew everybody to Warmachine? Big, mean robots. Well, guess what? This is an entire faction of big, awesome robots.
Players of the Witchfire trilogy might remember that the Cult of Cyriss played a very active role in terms of that story, and so there was a harkening back to the past.
But it was a matter of having a compelling reason for this faction to become a player in the battles of Western Imran in Warmachine. They needed to become a big enough force and have the driving force behind them, and that meant getting the timing right within the storyline.
You know, one of the really exciting things about Convergence is that it really breaks new ground in terms of the visuals and the units that we're introducing to the world, because the Convergence is so different from anything we've seen before.
These are actually human beings who are inhabiting robots, and they know what it's like to live as a robot, so that they're self-consciously forming themselves into both works of art and machines of destruction. The developers came to us with all these crazy ideas on hands that turn into drills, and pikes that turn into halberds, and flails that become maces, and so we got to do all of this really neat stuff, and I think it sort of manifested itself in my favorite way within the heavy infantry units of the game, the reciprocators. These are clockwork soldiers on medium bases. When they shield wall, the visual concept is that they actually interlock together, and we went through and we really explored these aspects of how to make these weapons feel like they worked.
One of the biggest inspirations for the Convergence of Cyriss when we were concepting it was really the Art Deco movement and trying to make these things look like the giant robots that came out of the golden age of science fiction. And so you see a lot of chrome and rounded plates, in addition to still maintaining a very mechanical look.
We looked at things like the Chrysler building and a lot of art from the 20s and 30s with the scalloped edges and the long forms. Obviously a lot of metal, but we wanted the very high polished feel, a lot of nicely scalloped armor and bold shapes to the armor that feel both organic and mechanical at the same time.
I think one of their more compelling units is the Clockwork Angels. These are basically constructs that have these mechanical wings that fly across the battlefield and just rip through their opponents very fast and very deadly.
The light warjack, the Galvanizer, is the first warjack to repair other warjacks in your battle group, and he ranges all the way to the heavy Cypher with his various ammunition he can fire from his servopod mortar.
The Convergence of Cyriss really embodies a new way of looking at the standard warjack and of the soul and the utilization of that in the Iron Kingdoms. You see it in their infantry with their ability to swap different weapon modes to gain different abilities on the tabletop. But I think the biggest place that it really shines and that really defines Convergence of Cyriss as a faction is in the battle group.
One of the key elements of the Convergence of Cyriss's gameplay is how they're a clockwork faction. Everything that you do has an impact on the other portions of your army. It has a lot of synergy, and it's like a giant machine. Each Convergence of Cyriss Warcaster has a different field marshal ability. They convey bonuses on their battle group that vary from making every single one of them into an arc node to giving them a shield. Warjacks in the Convergence are called vectors, and these machines vary a little bit from the warjacks that other factions have. Each vector has a component called an induction node. Once per turn, when one of your vectors spends a focus point, it can give that focus point to a nearby vector. This allows a trickle of power cascading through the battle group so that a single focus point can be used over and over again. The vectors in the Convergence of Cyriss battle also have a very unique way that their mat and rat stats are used. Rather than having individual stats for each vector, they're based on the Warcaster. A Warcaster with a Mat 7 and a Rat 2 will convey that to his entire battle group, just as one with a Mat 5 and a Rat 5 will. This gives you almost an entirely new warjack when you play it with a new Warcaster.
Really, I think the biggest reason anyone's going to want to play Convergence of Cyriss is the fact that on the tabletop, they are extremely efficient and they allow you to adapt to any changing battlefield situation on the fly.
Players will be able to use many warjacks in their battle groups and also be able to shift how those jacks even work from game to game by switching up their Warcaster.
They're just fun, and they offer a whole new lens in which to explore the Iron Kingdoms and a bunch of great new challenges both tactically when playing with and against them.
I think Warmachine players are going to enjoy playing the Convergence because it really brings something new mechanically to the table, and I think people are really going to be drawn to the fact that they get to play with their full-on army of these metal soldiers. To put that down on the battlefield, it feels amazing.
All right, guys, what do you think about that? I've seen that Convergence video probably 100 times now, but watching it with you guys gave me chills again. We're gonna take some questions now, so if anyone has questions about the panel, come up over here and speak to me.
Or no one will have questions, that'll be awesome.
Sweet. Is he going to check Twitter?
And yeah, if you're out there on Twitter, tweet questions to @PrivateerPress with the hashtag PP2013.
Short, concise questions, please.
Garnet wants to know what you guys did for testing for balance of the new faction compared to the other factions.
Well, a lot of play testing, obviously. One of the things that marks the Convergence out is that they actually spanned 2 play test cycles rather than 1. So they got a lot of extra attention, especially given all of their new mechanics and things like that. So we definitely endeavored to make sure that they felt like they should in terms of what we wanted to accomplish with the clockwork feel and the different abilities. but also, remained within all the other factions that currently exist. So that was, just a lot of hard testing and very careful looking.
Yeah, I mean, from my end, I've actually never played the Convergence of Cyriss because I've always played against them in playtesting. So I've played just about every faction versus them, but still haven't yet picked up one of their warjacks for myself.
All right, the next question's from Jeremy, and he'd like to know, for High Command, what's the distribution model? Is it going to be booster packs or a fixed release?
So High Command is a fixed release, so there's going to be a core set for WARMACHINE, which will include the 4 prime factions. It will have 5 warcasters in there along with the different detachment decks, so it's fully playable right out of the box with 2 to 4 players. And then Hordes will also get its own core box, and that will include the 4 primal factions. And then there will be additional expansions down the road potentially, and those are, right now, we're considering making those core releases as well. So you won't necessarily need the original box. You'll be able to play the other boxes right out of the kit. So it won't be randomized. It'll be completely standalone. Just pick up the box and you'll be ready to go.
Lyle.
Dave wants to know when the minions are going to get a pork node.
A pork node? Check next year. I know. That's, one of these years, man, you might get the answer you want.
I am texting Brent to trademark pork node right now.
That is a good one, yeah.
We have a question from Twitter. Are all the Convergence of Cyriss models plastic?
No. There will be metal models. Primarily the warcasters and solos will be in metal. But it is probably the most plastic in a faction to date. And that's because we set out to design them with that in mind.
I think all the vectors, with the exception of one, are plastic. And then we've also got at least 5 units that are plastic on top of that. So.
Booz wants to know for Iron Gauntlet, is the entire format, including the qualifiers, going to be open for mixed faction lists?
Yes.
Roger wants to know if we have any information to share about Lilith 3.
Well, I saw her the other day before we left, and she looked really cool.
Yep, she's in the office. She looks great. Information, I mean, she'll be popping up on the release schedule very, very soon. And I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with her. Not really ready to do any spoilers on her just yet.
We have another question from Twitter. Will we see Father Lucan?
Yeah, if you notice, it goes a little quick in the video, but his field marshal ability actually shows up after the Arc Node one that everyone went crazy over. He gives everybody shield guard, so he will be in the faction as one of the playable warcasters.
And Rick has a question about Convergence of Cyriss. All the factions right now have different model types: Cav, Colossals, Battle Engines. What will Convergence of Cyriss be shipping with, and what will come out later on?
You want to field that one?
You want to leave anything for a surprise?
No.
All right. So Convergence of Cyriss, they have their standard warcasters, warjacks units, but right out of the gate, Convergence will also be getting a battle engine. That's pretty sweet. And then they'll be getting the Prime Axiom, which is their Colossal. And then your standard solos and things like that. Currently, we don't have any mechanical cavalry for them.
Is Level 7 Omega Protocol an add-on, or is it a standalone separate game?
Omega Protocol is a standalone game, so it's an entirely new experience. It continues the story and the transmedia property that is level 7. So if you play the base game, it is a continuation of that narrative, but it's not necessary to play the base game to play Omega Protocol. It's got an entirely different system that is designed for the combat experience, the tactical miniatures experience.
All right, and we have a question about High Command. Is High Command a 2-player game, or can you play it with more players and more factions?
High Command can be played 2 to 4 players, and you can mix the Hordes and War Machine sides of things. So, yeah, it's definitely playable with more, and actually a lot more fun when you have to vie with 3 other opponents, because you wind up getting a lot of table talk and deals that may or may not be true to the nature of the actual world.
Are there any plans for a Rulik battle engine or Colossal?
Do it.
Yes.
Adam wants to know, does the guy who gives all of the jacks arc node, does he have telekinesis?
Well, one, it's not a guy, it's a girl, so we'll do that. It's the Iron Mother. Does she have telekinesis? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yep, it'll be a surprise.
Where's DC when you need him?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's yelling at us on the other end of the stream right now.
For Iron Gauntlet, how many people will qualify for the finals at Lock and Load, and how's the invitation work?
So for the 2014 finals, we will have a top 16. And the way that the qualifiers work is that it's a points-based system, which more information about Iron Gauntlet will be coming out in short order following the announcement. But effectively, depending on your region, there's a certain amount of points that you'll need to earn to qualify. So if you're in a region like the US where there are more qualifiers, your points will be higher, so you'll need to attend more events. If you live someplace where there are fewer qualifiers, there's a balance so that you're not expected to fly across the world, to be able to compete with guys who have more events in their local area. So we're being very, very careful in terms of balancing to make sure that everybody has a fair shot to the qualifiers based on their global location.
Chris wants to know, High Command, will they have Retribution in High Command?
Not initially, but both Retribution, Mercenaries, and Minions are all on the docket for potential expansions. So we want to cover the world as much as possible in that game. So provided you guys like it, we'll continue to make it.
Here's a question from Twitter about High Command. Will High Command, War Machine, and Hordes be released together?
They will not be released together. There'll be a slight separation, but they will both be released this year. So they'll be separated by a month or 2, just for simplicity's sake.
And Matt asks, having experience against playing Convergence of Cyriss, how scary are they?
They're pretty scary, but I mean, they're not any scarier than facing off against any other faction. Really, it's about your opponent, and so I have to fight against guys like Will Schick and Will Hungerford and DC all the time. So that's what makes them scary. They definitely hold their own, but it feels like they're right where they need to be.
I'll steal a little a quote from Andrew Hartland when we were talking about it this morning, because he has actually helped us play test the Convergence, in that when you play against the Convergence, you kind of feel like you're playing against a Rube Goldberg machine. Like, you watch as all this random stuff happens, and by the end of it, you're either dead or your opponent's going, well, it was cool, right? Stunning either way.
Alan says he's excited for Convergence of Cyriss, but what are the plans for the other War Machine factions?
So the other War Machine factions are not forgotten. Convergence will be releasing, obviously, at Lock and Load this year, as the video kind of hinted at. However, we also have a new War Machine anthology book that will be releasing this year, and more information on that will be coming out in the next couple of months. But the rest of the factions are definitely getting some new releases and some exciting stuff this year, including the long-awaited Rulik Colossal.
And Christoph asks, for the Iron Gauntlet qualifiers, will there be qualifiers in the major European countries?
Yes, there will be qualifiers both in Australia and in the EU and UK. So we've worked very hard to make sure that we have a good spread for the first qualifying year, and we look to expand that in the following years. So
we have a question from Twitter. What's the name of the Convergence of Cyriss battle engine?
The battle engine?
Transfinite Emergence Projector.
Yes, this is the Transfinite Emergence Projector. You guys are going to love the names of the things in this faction. It's like doing calculus.
It's the first and the last time that DC will ever be in charge of naming an entire faction.
Chris from the live audience asks, how are Convergence of Cyriss going to be released? Are they going to appear in the next WARMACHINE anthology book, or are they getting a Forces book?
Yeah, they're going to get their own Force book, and they'll launch with a battle group box set like the rest of the factions. And it'll be pretty standard, but yeah, they're going to have their own Force book, very much like Retribution released.
Killian wants to know, are there going to be more casters for WARMACHINE this year?
For WARMACHINE this year? Yes.
Adam asks, since WARMACHINE's getting a new faction this year, can Hordes players look forward to a new faction anytime soon?
There is a new Hordes faction in the works. So not any time this year, but we are working on one.
Do we need to have them wrap it up?
Mike asks, from the Gargantuans book, are the Epic casters the only ones that the Hordes factions are getting, or are they also getting any additional warlocks?
At this point, all of the warlocks that have been shown are all the ones in that book. So each faction only gets one warlock, and then of course the minions get two, one for each of the sub-factions.
All right, we'll take just a couple more questions. Question here is, Convergence of Cyriss, how many warcasters should they expect in their Forces book?
There will be 5 warcasters in the Force book.
And Willem asks, will Convergence of Cyriss be compatible with mercenaries?
Not currently. Convergence has a thing against fleshy creatures. It's...
All right, one last question. This one comes from Twitter. Will Convergence be getting a battle box?
Yes, they will be getting a battle box, and that will be one of the primary releases.
All right, guys, that wraps up our Q&A session. Thank you very much for coming to the presentation.